I was at the library the other day and I saw this book, and this book made me think of one of my very best friends, a friend that I'd like to hear from. um, but anyhow, it's called I Don't Want to Read This Book Aloud. I like to read aloud, but there are some people who don't, and my friend is one of them. It says written by Max Greenfield and illustrated by Mike Lowery. And on the back it says, I don't want to read it out loud either. See? So let's see what it says. This book is meant to be read aloud. Oh, look. I guess I'll read it out loud because I don't mind reading aloud. I don't want to read this book aloud. This book is meant to be read aloud. If it's okay, I don't want to read this book aloud. Again, and I don't mean to be rude, but I'd really rather not read this book aloud. Thank you so much. Okay, for the very last time, I do not want to read this book aloud. I don't want to read it out loud either. It's dopey words like aloud that make me want to remain silent. Whose idea was it to read aloud anyway? It certainly wasn't mine. It wasn't my idea. Ugh, I guess now is as good a time as any to address the elephant in the room. Hello, elephant. Hello. I think I know why you don't want to read this book aloud. And I think you know why too. I think it's because you are afraid. No, duh. You know, they say elephants have the smallest brains of any animal, even smaller than cats and snakes. Maybe that's why they inexplicably spell their names using a PH instead of an F. Hey, that's not fair. Fair is supposed to be with an F. Next to going to the dentist, reading a book aloud is maybe the most terrifying thing a person can do. Here's a list of other things I'm afraid of. Elevators, bumblebees, purple vegetables, outer space, rodents, mummies, and all of my teeth falling out. I don't totally trust the drain in the bathtub, but I'm not afraid of quicksand anymore. Also, my friend's older sister said she was scared of something called FOMO, but I'm not afraid of that, and I don't know what it means. Just thinking about reading this book gives me a stomachache. Any number of terrible things could happen. I mean, what if I lose my place? What if a random thought pops into my head and I forget where I was? What if a nearby volcano erupts? What am I supposed to do then? Start over? Just thinking about reading this book gives me a stomachache. Any number of terrible things could happen. I mean, what if I lose my place? What if a random thought pops into my head and I forget where I was? What if a nearby volcano erupts? What am I supposed to do then? Start over? I think we started over, didn't we? Then there's the sound of my own voice. Sometimes I'll stop and listen to myself when I'm reading aloud. This is always a mistake. This is what reading this book aloud sounds like to me. Wah, blah, wah, blah, blur, blah, wah, blah, boo. Do, do, thoo, do, blur, blah, thunk. Oh my. That would distract me if I was trying to read. Aplomb. Aplomb is a word I've never seen before in my life. I'm not even sure how to pronounce a word like aplomb. What am I supposed to do when I'm reading a book aloud and I run into a word like aplomb? Do I just throw the book as hard as I can out the nearest window? Because under no circumstances am I willing to humiliate myself and admit to the world, the whole entire world, that I have no idea what an aplomb is. And I will not ask for help. I'd be happy to help. So glad you asked. Aplomb is a tricky word, but beautiful in its structure and usage. It means self-confidence or assurance. If I were to use it in a sentence, I might say, you are reading this book aloud with great aplomb. I've never heard of that word. I have not. I'm never reading another book aloud again. Merely suggesting that I read this book aloud will forever be remembered as an unforgivable act. The only thing I'm thankful for is that this book isn't a chapter book. Not even the most awful human being or condescending elephant would ever ask someone to read a chapter book aloud. Just the thought of it makes me feel like I'm drowning in quicksand, which, come to think of it, I am still afraid of. Also, why is everyone looking at me? Chapter 2, Bravery. I guess it is a chapter book. Bravery is overrated. Also, what about the courage it says to say, I'm not comfortable reading this book aloud? I mean, just because some random elephant suggests it doesn't mean I should have to do it. And if the elephant doesn't like it, that's an elephant problem, not a me problem. I already told you it wasn't me. Go away, elephant. I'm on a roll here. Okay, today we stand up for the not so aplomb, the shy ones, and the quiet ones. We stand up in support of reading to ourselves, and maybe instead of reading aloud, what we should be doing is a whole lot more of listening aloud. Because if I can listen aloud to you and you can listen aloud to me, then maybe we can listen aloud to each other. And let the aloud readers read aloud. Let them read so aloud that it can be heard from ocean to ocean and sea to shiny sea. Because it isn't us against them or us against an elephant. This is about who we are and choosing when to use our voices once we've discovered them. After all, isn't the whole world already aloud enough? Hold for applause. Thank you. The end. And that is the end. So anyhow, one of my friend I was talking about, I did give my friend some advice. And I said, now this friend was terrified of reading aloud. Okay. It wasn't just like, oh, I don't want to or whatever, but it was real, true anxiety, fear, trauma. Okay. So I said, instead of getting in trouble in class when you refuse to read, go to your teacher before class or after class and have a talk about it and tell them that this isn't you trying to be a problem, but that you have a true fear inside of you that makes it so you cannot read aloud. Then maybe your teacher can work out something with you. What do you think? And I am much more sensitive to people who don't want to read aloud now that I know that. So anyhow, some people don't want to. I love reading aloud, even when I make goof ups. Anyhow, I'll talk to you later.